here's how to turn your vague dreams into a job title, or more specifically, identify the job title that best aligns with your dream.
All this allows you to then understand how to bring yourself to the job market rather than letting the job market tell you who you need to become.
Audrey, I am so excited to be back, kind of as a part 2 to last week's episode where we talked about the 8 questions to unlock career clarity. And we had a promise. We had a promise to come back and say, we know that these questions are going to make you say things like, I just want to help people and make money doing it. Not totally a job title. So we wanted to come back and say, here's how to turn your vague dreams into a job title, or more specifically, identify the job title that best aligns with your dreams. So that's what we're going to do. Because if you are, like all of us, and dreaming of things like, I just want to make gifts for people all day. But you're like, what job title is that exactly? Or you're thinking like, surely no one will pay for that. We want to challenge your assumptions and say like, use this method and you'll probably find it, because there are thousands, perhaps even by some definition, millions of jobs that you have never heard of before. So assume that you know less than you think, but you will know more after using this method to uncover the best job title to align with what you feel called to do. Audrey, any opening words? Sorry, I just sprung that one on you.
What can I say to add any value? Nothing. I'm ready to go.
In the intro, at least. You'll get to the meat of it. But, oh, my cat's biting me now. The show must go on. So I also want to say that this method that we're about to share, that's a 4-step method, is also for the person that does have a few tangible job titles in mind, like maybe a quality assurance engineer, or I'm just thinking of engineering things. Any other kind of tangible job title, like a financial planner, something that you're like, I know that's a job. This is also for you if you have one or a small list of options that you're interested in, and you could use this. I insist you use it to, no matter where you're starting, from vague to concrete, to use this to double check to see if there's something even more fitting for you to do instead. Mm-hmm. So maybe it'll give you even better ideas, but it'll certainly, whether or not you need new or better ideas, help you cross off the less optimal ones and come up with the single confident career decision that you would like to devote eternity to. Just kidding. That's no one. But I guess you're allowed to pivot if you want. Anyway.
And I do have something to say in the intro.
Oh, whoa, hit me.
This is all practical steps to take to get out of your own head. That's what I see all the time with people, is they are running circles in their mind, trying to figure everything out by just thinking through it. And transparently, that's going to get you nowhere.
Nowhere. Yeah, my least favorite destination for any client is their own thoughts and feelings, honestly. Mm-hmm. I hate saying that, but sometimes it's like, depersonalize a little bit and just use these steps.
Mm-hmm.
We're not that special.
Mm-hmm. Get out of your own way.
Yes. That took a lot for me to say. I'm an Enneagram 4, so I do think actually every single person is extremely special. But both can be true. Mm-hmm. Should we get into step 1?
Yes.
Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so step 1, you're going to do some initial research to see if people are actually making money doing the things that you're dreaming of, because let's just go along with the whole maybe you're not special track.
Oh no, I started us in a bad direction.
No, it is bad direction, because you are special.
Oh, thank you.
Everyone is special, but someone's probably doing the thing that you are thinking of in some capacity.
And that's good news.
That is good news. And it doesn't mean that you can't add your own creative spin to it if you're starting your own business, or even just your own creative spin in a traditional job. but someone's probably already doing it. So just find the people who are already doing it to answer the questions that you have. So you can start with so if you have these general ideas of what you want to do, you want to give people gifts all day long, you want to just organize information in Excel, or you wish that you could help people curate their own collection of art, whatever it is, go to Google, start Googling people who might be doing this, or go to ChatGPT, our best friend. If you've never used ChatGPT, now is the time to start. Or if you're like me and use it for literally everything, get back on there. So, and just start asking these questions. And you don't need to, especially in ChatGPT, you don't need to curate the question in any special way. Just ask, what job allows me to give people gifts all day long?
Yeah, here are the responsibilities I want to hold. Here's the preferences that I have. You could put anything in there. Here's how much money I want to make. Here's where I want to live.
Mhm.
Seriously, like just see what happens when you load it up with all of the things that you're telling yourself, God, or your friends what you would love to be doing in your life and in your career, and see if when you ask it, what job would allow me to do that, or what are career paths that align with that, what it comes up with. It might be, if not a home run, a really helpful starting point to take with you to then be able to proceed into the next steps.
Mhm.
For multiple clients, Chat GPT has using this trick has actually been a big aha moment. Particularly, I'm thinking of one who said that she really just wanted to proofread documents all day long, but would like to maintain her income of at least eighty to $100,000 a year in salary. And she was like, for sure, there's no job that does that. And it spat out a list of 15 that I at least two of them were like really, really solid. Five were like maybe.
Mhm.
So that should be
Yeah.
really, really good news to you.
And this is not your ending point. The list is not
Mm-mm.
yet, it's just your starting point to then go into the next steps. So don't expect it to solve all your
Yeah.
problems in one go.
Yeah, exactly. And you might not be at, like, you might, if you already know that you're really just trying to decide between being like in tech sales or a customer success manager, you might not be starting at step one needing um, to use search engines to do more research to see like if your dream job actually exists. You're like, I have a couple good options. Then you'll be able to skip to step two. Wow. And we'll go into that in a minute, of just collecting your list of potential job titles and writing out your lists of likes and concerns. I'll go into that more in a minute. But I really needed to start at step one when I was in my career exploration journey, because I knew I wanted to have meaningful conversations with people all day, but I didn't want to be a therapist. I wanted to help people like achieve maybe certain goals rather than just fix problems. I actually, specifically on my list, I was like, I don't want to do urgent work, because I was in consulting, and like at least half the emails I was getting from our clients had urgent in the subject line, and it made sleep and nights and weekends difficult. And so I knew that I didn't want urgent work. I didn't want to just focus on fixing problems all the time. I personally just wanted to help people like achieve aspirational goals. And so I was like, but what is that? And I knew I really loved thinking about career dreams. And some of these steps is what God, by His grace, used to help me realize that career coaching was an option. And I didn't know at the time people got paid for that. So that was a really, really happy discovery for me. Um, Similarly, we both have a lot of amazing feedback about my recent episode with Catherine Dollaher, who is a arts business manager. And so she like basically grows and manages artists' businesses so they can make a living off of their art. And one of our clients is like, wow, thank you so much for putting words to like what I didn't even know, kind of in so many ways. Like, I think I'm made for that. Like, that's incredible. So, yeah, there's all sorts of jobs out there. Should we get to step two?
Yes. So, step two is collecting your list of potential job titles through step one. Or if you skip step one because you already have this, collect that list of potential job titles, then write out your likes and concerns for each job. And you can just do this in a 3-column spreadsheet on Google Docs, Google Sheets, Excel, whatever you want to use, Notion. First column is job titles or the career paths that you're considering. And then the second column is what excites you about the job, what you assume is great about it, or what's awesome about it. And then the third column is that's where you put your concerns about what it might be like, potential hardships, maybe some fears that come up related to this job. And this concerns part is, I love doing this with clients or seeing what they come up with, because the concerns will like burrow into your mind now and come up as resistance or blockages either right now or later down the line. So
Wow.
brain dump those out so you can address them in the next steps so that they are not these things that just come up later.
That was so brilliant to point out. I realized just, dang, that really hit me how true that is of seeing so many people, as well as I resonate with this myself, just focus on, yeah, well, I'd like to do that and I'd like to do this and that and whatever. And here's things that I aspire to. But like they don't fully articulate um, often why they don't think that they could actually do that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you actually articulate why you think, oh, but that wouldn't happen for me, or but I wouldn't be good at that, or nobody makes any money doing that, or that's too hard to get into, um, etc. Maybe when you articulate those concerns, you'll some will actually immediately help you become clearly not a problem. Like when you define it, you're like, how true is that really? Not true. How likely is that really? Not likely. And then some are a real practical concern that is valid, like maybe the field you're considering is actually very competitive. Well, what's stopping you from being one of the people that makes it in? What do other people do wrong that counts them out? What's stopping you from just getting mentorship and advice from people that have made it and following their exact steps with discipline? Probably not much. Probably just it's all in the prison of your mind. um,
And then
to
with each
simplify.
concern too, an activity that I like is, with each of those concerns that are still on your list after you go through this initial practice of saying, is it true? Is it likely? Turn each concern directly into a question. Like, I'm really concerned that this job is always going to have me working odd hours. Turn that into a question that you can then ask somebody in the next step. You can, or next couple steps, ask somebody this question. So, I'm worried that this job has odd hours. The question with that would be, to somebody who works in this job, how often are you working after 5 o'clock? What does a
Mhm.
typical week of odd hours look like for
Yeah.
you, or a typical week of your hours look like? Is there a world where you can do this job in a regular hours format? Those kinds of questions that actually speak to the concern directly.
Yes.
So maybe add
Yes.
a fourth column to your spreadsheet where you have your questions that.
What questions?
Mhm.
Totally. Yeah, I really agree with that. And I very much resonate with like if somebody is telling you, yeah, actually that's probably true and there's not much money to be made, or we're often going overtime or doing nights and weekends work. You could ask, is there any scenario in which that's not true? Oh yeah, actually my buddy over at this other company says it's pretty awesome. You're like, what's their name?
Mhm.
What's that company? How can I get in contact with you? It's just worth asking. It's worth asking to see how these hardships cannot be true. And then also just realize that, like, of course, every profession does have its hardships. Um, and I have to apologize if I'm repeating anything. There was a time for me where your screen was a little bit paused. But if it's really true, and it is, that every profession has its hardships. Just realize that God, by His grace, has created each of us to endure things that other people would hate but aren't actually a big deal to you. So just make sure that ideally, we're all shooting for being in professions that utilize our strengths. And for the things that are hard for everybody else in this profession, you're like, I mean, I wouldn't say I love that, but it's not the worst to me. Like, it's a worthy price of admission to be here.
Mhm.
Maybe there's a lot of paperwork that you have to do before getting to sit in on the real sessions that you want to be on with clients. Like, I'm thinking of therapists often say that.
Mhm.
Um, or like you get tough customer feedback, but you're like, I love improving. That's okay. Yeah, consider your natural resilience and try to utilize or be in a career that utilizes that. So let's go into step 3. This is where now you have a list of ideas and you've defined what you assume to be awesome. Underline the word assume because you have to test your assumptions. You probably don't know for sure what's true about this job. Most people don't. Most people, I'll venture to say, are making blind guesses in their career unless they are literally doing what their parents did for work, which, that's an exception. You likely did see a little bit more up close potentially what that job was like. But in the more average case that you have not gone into the profession that your parents were doing, you probably don't know exactly what it's like. And so you're thinking marketing is always a creative job, that HR is always just super people oriented and helping create an aspirational culture at the company. HR isn't culture, HR is like procedures and legal stuff and compensation analysis and recruiting and yeah, so you need to be able to dig deeper and test your assumptions. So now that you have that list and of job options or ideas that you're interested in, as well as what you assume to be awesome and assume to be hard about each of those, you are ready for step 3, which is to contact at least 10, but preferably 30 people in each of those jobs on your list to let them know that you're potentially interested in pivoting into their field, but would like to understand the behind the scenes reality of this profession from their perspective before diving in. Assume a 10% response rate here. That's why you might be slightly surprised by the quantity of people I recommend reaching out to, of at least 30, at least 10, but preferably 30 per job that you're interested in. So let's say you have um, 3 jobs on your list that you're seriously considering. Let's say you have 10 jobs that, some are like super serious considerations, but some you're like, I've just been thinking about this a long time and I don't want to count it out. Definitely include those and still do this process for those more peripheral job. It's really worth it. So you live with no regrets.
Mhm.
And so that might mean that you're saying, okay, Kelsey, if I have 10 ideas and options on my list, you're saying reach out to 300 people, um, potentially. And here's why I say that, because Audrey and I have been doing this for years and have talked hundreds of people through the career clarity process, helping them land on jobs that they really feel confident and called to. And in that, I myself, Audrey, as well as hundreds of our clients, have sent out a collective thousands of messages, thousands using our process. And we have seen statistically gotten a fair, maybe clearer than is common idea of generally how many people you can expect will respond to you, whether they're your best friend, your neighbor, or some random person you just found on LinkedIn. So uh, I think that it is most helpful to assume that only 10 people will not only respond to you, that's probably more than 10% is going to respond to your message, um, but 10% up to 25% on average will be at the time and place in life to also say, yes, we could get on a call this week or next. So, because you just don't know what's going on in people's lives, and they might receive your message and be like, oh, actually, I'm on the way out of my company and like, or I'm moving or whatever else. And I hope this person does well in their career. But like, there's a lot, people have lives, you know,
Mhm.
and most of the time, nobody is ever, or I would say, mostly, I wouldn't say it's common for anybody to get mad that they received a message from you saying, hey, is it insane that I just want to do some research before making this life altering decision? No, they probably did the same thing when they were
Mhm.
uh, before getting into this job back in the day. And so, um, know that you have permission to reach out to a lot of people that on the other side of a screen would love to help you. Not everybody has time. So, at this exact moment that you're reaching out to them, that's why response rates are often lower than I would say a lot of our clients expect. Would you say that, Audrey?
Yes. And I want to say that there's two consistent scenarios that come up in this stage of the process. One, people feeling resistance to this. So, uh, everything that Kelsey just said is reasons that you should just push past that resistance and do it. Um, Two is people coming back and saying, wow, I didn't realize how nice people would be.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how helpful this would be, which is always interesting. I get a chuckle out of that. I'm like, we're not going to have you do something that's not helpful, but
Yeah.
I'm glad you see the value now. And that is like people, yes, the response rate is low for all the reasons that Kelsey mentioned. It's just kind of the way things are. But then the people who do respond, the amount of value that that brings to your job search is worth every message that didn't get a response. You're not going to think about Jimmy Joe at X company that didn't respond. I promise you. Kelsey and I ourselves, we have sent out so many messages just in outbound lead generation, and I haven't thought twice about the people who haven't responded.
Yeah, no offense, but
Yeah, no
like,
offense.
I'm like, who?
Yeah,
Yeah, just keep moving. Like
yeah.
at the end, I always just when I get a bit intimidated to do something or put myself out there in some respect, I really do enjoy seriously thinking about that quip of like, at the end of your life, are you gonna dot dot dot? But
Mhm.
seriously, I'm like, at the end of my life, will I remember this little email skirmish that I'm having with some
Mhm.
rando on the internet? Or will overall I just be like, wow, I really regret that I never tried that to write that thing or publish that podcast or help people in that way or go for that idea. Um, Regret is deep.
Mm.
And I'm just like, as much as I could help it, not willing to feel it later on. And furthermore, joy, the joy that comes from your expectations being met or exceeded by, like, wow, God can do immeasurably more than you can ask or imagine in his own right. And especially with a willing participant of saying, like, God, yeah, I want this. And I'm going to pray with my feet. I'm going to meet you there. I'm going to get this idea out there. And I need your help in the process. But I'm here, Lord. I'm going to keep on like the persistent widow in Luke 18. I am going to keep on knocking until it happens. And God says, like, yeah, even evil people will respond to a persistent person. How much more, it says in that parable, does your Father who loves you want to help? So anyway, that it's like Audrey saying, not a problem that 1 out of 10 or 3 out of 10 people that you reach out to will end up getting on the phone. That's good news. Great. Focus on
Mhm.
the one, focus on the three. And why we say overall, the goal is to get on the phone with at least 3 people in each of the professions you're considering is that I mean, I personally wouldn't want to base such a huge life decision as deciding on a whole career direction on one person. Like maybe they really are an outlier. I just need to test it to see. So I want to talk to, not like in my case, one career coach, but I really want to see this profession from three career coaches' perspectives to see what is it like working in an agency or for yourself or for a big company? What kind of expressions does this field take on? Can I talk to somebody in career coaching that takes on like three different people that take on three different niches of like some just serve women, some serve like they'll specialize on a demographic, others will specialize on a industry, others will specialize on I don't know if you could say like a psychographic, like me, like Christians. Yeah, and all that takes provided extremely helpful information. So that's why we say reach out to that many people for at least three conversations. And if you have one conversation with someone in a career and you're like, I just know in my bones, like I know in my heart of hearts that I am good with letting this idea go. That's okay. It's your life. Like I've been there. I've totally been there. That's okay. But these are all just overarching guidelines to be helpful in general. Yeah. Anything else to say on that, Audrey, about step 3?
Just do it. That's all.
Oh yeah, sorry. One more thing. Some people you might know personally, like in a field that you're considering, that's great. Some careers that are on your list, you're like, I know no one that does that. No problem. Just focus on looking new people up on LinkedIn or Google, Instagram. The internet's a big place, and that's all good.
Yes, and I do have one tip for looking people on LinkedIn. In the search bar, use quotation marks around the job title because that will search the entire job title together rather than individual words in the job title. So, and then you'll hit the people filter and it'll pull up everybody in business operation management rather than people in business, people in operation, people in management. It'll pull up people with that title somewhere on their profile. Or I've been noticing recently it's not always exact, but it filters it down so much better.
Wow. Audrey, you teach me things every day. I'm genuinely shook. I know that you told me that before, but apparently it just went one in one ear and out the other. So you get my childlike joy and delight and
I love it.
being impressed twice.
I love it. That makes me happy. I love providing a novel idea that maybe isn't so novel.
Well, you crushed it. Okay, we're ready for this final step
Mm-hmm.
to help you turn your vague ideas into an actual job title that would be amazing for you to go out and make a career of. And this step is to, as you're getting on the phone with those people, ask them, which by the way, I really do recommend a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they're in your city or like it's somebody that you know personally and you're like, let's have lunch or dinner. Like I'm not going to stop you. It's your friendship or whatever, but those can go so long. And if 5 minutes in, you're like, I don't like this job that they're describing, then you know you have a job to be done here. You're asking questions on a mission. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Which I do want to say, and I warn clients about this all the time, do not fall into the trap of this just being a personal get to know you,
Yeah. Yeah.
catch up, or first call. I know when I meet people for the first time, I love to just like learn about their life.
Yeah.
No, this is very structured. This is direct. That's why we're giving you questions to ask.
Yep. Yeah, you know what? I don't know if it's fair, but I'm just going to be real. It does kind of frustrate me when the I've had plenty of people. I'm going to sound like a villain. All right, here we go. I've had plenty of people reach out to me for informational interviews about my career. That's fine. I promote this idea. People have helped me. I would love to help you. However, when almost the entirety of the conversation centered around why did you get into this? What's your story? Some advice that you would have for me? What do you think about, like, I don't know, just like going for a dream? I'm like, none of those questions actually got into just a clinical understanding of what it is to be in this job and if you should be in it. That, you know, all the rest is just personal detail, which can be helpful and encouraging, and that's fine. And yet, if we only have a 30-minute conversation and there's likely not going to be another one, I would rather you like really know all the information that comes from asking the questions that we suggested. Like, what are the tasks that you spend the majority of your day doing? What is really, oh, that's actually step 4. Here we are. I have not yet said these questions. So, step 4 is to, as you get on these conversations, to ask the following short list of questions to determine if their job would be a good fit for you or if you should do something else instead. And I add that last part of the sentence intentionally because these conversations aren't there should not be any chance that you have conversations with people in 5 different fields and you're like, I hated all of them, dead end. No, if you, that's totally fine to have hated all of your initial ideas. But at the end of those conversations, I encourage you, and I'll get into this, to tell them, all right, honestly, I was interested in this profession because such and such like thought a thing that I thought was going to be exciting about it. But the challenges that you described, like honestly, I just know my personality and that's going to be tough for me. I would rather have something like XYZ instead. And as clearly as possible, communicate your vision of what you would like in a job instead and ask them, what career paths do you know of that are a fit for that? And get their ideas because they've likely seen a lot of other job options on the periphery of their profession. So they could give you a better idea. And then you're like, oh, amazing. Thank you. Who do you know that does that? Awesome. How is it okay if I reach out to them on LinkedIn and like said that you and I connected? Okay, great. Thanks. Or they might offer to connect you instead, which is wonderful. So that's how to never ever have one of these conversations or this set of informational interviews lead to a dead end. It should always lead somewhere to a conclusive, confident career decision when you ask this. So ask them, what are the tasks that you spend the majority of your day doing? This is different than what's your day like or what's your day in the life in this job. They'll tell you things like when they arrive and when they wake up and what they do for their lunch schedule and what their coworkers are like. And that doesn't actually give that's not information to build a career off of. Okay, you want to say what are the tasks that you spend the majority of your day doing. Tasks reveal what talents somebody who is going into this field maybe should possess and if you are a match for that or not or want to be a match. And then ask, what do you need to have a tolerance for to be a good fit for this profession? This could like really bring up those challenges and see if those really sound all that bad to you or not, or if they're like worthy things to get through to be able to have all the positive things that you like about the job. And I'm hearing this is just also such an insightful question. Anytime I've been asked this or it comes up in conversation, I always think that is such an elite freaking question. That is way better than just like, what's your story? Or like, what's this job like? Do you have any advice for me? What do you need to have a tolerance for to be a good fit in this profession? Is like, oh, wow, this person has grit. They have maturity and understanding that like there's hard things about every profession, but they should know that up front.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can move on to the well, yeah, there's like a part B to this question, but generally, yeah, it is like the final question that I definitely would recommend asking. And it is laying out for them. your chart of those three columns, saying, here's what I assumed to be awesome about this profession. And here's what I have assumed is hard about it. And share what was on your list. Is that really true? What is your perspective on that, of like what's awesome about it and what's hard being a content marketing manager or something like that? Um, yeah, is that really true? Because I say this often, that a great example is people get into um, some people become lawyers because they enjoyed being on the debate team in high school, and then they realize that they'll spend probably 1% of their time as a lawyer in the courtroom. And that uh, is not, if you don't like the 99%, like that, it's almost, I would say it's never going to be enough. And so they, if you say, hey, one thing that I assume is like I'm going to be able to use my love of debate as a lawyer, and somebody in the legal profession is like, let me tell you,
Mm.
that is so helpful to know up front. That's so helpful. Um, and then, like I said, at the end of the call, why don't you just wrap it up with this? If you did like what they shared about their job, tell them that and ask them, oh my gosh, I think I'd love to go for this. Like, what do you think um, people should do to land a great job and like really be a competitive applicant um, in this field? Like, what advice would you give me to like really elevate my chances of getting in? Um, and then you could go into advice, which is still worth asking, but with the context already being laid. And then if you did not like what they shared, or only half liked the things that they described as the reality of this profession, tell them. Tell them your concerns and ask if there's actually something, if it's something to be worried about or not. And this can even be emotional concerns. It doesn't just have to be like, oh, I think that people in your job are always working overtime or don't have balance in their lives, or it's always a high stress environment. It could be an emotional concern. Like I heard from one of my students in the Calling Academy for the church course that I run. Um, they, which you could look at on my website, thecultcareer.com. There's a top banner. But anyway, one of my students was like, honestly, I've wanted to be a fighter pilot. Like I'm pretty sure he said his whole life, but I just know it's like so competitive to get in, and I just don't know if I'm ever going to be good enough. Cause like there's this about my personality and this. And I was like, did you tell the fighter pilot you were talking to that you're worried about that? And he was like, oh no, I didn't. But I was like, what a precious mentorship moment that could have been had. And sometimes I've been in conversations like that, and somebody shares like, oh, but that couldn't be me because, or I'm worried like I'm just not enough for this. And I will say sometimes it's fine that that's true. And sometimes in my life experience, more often than not, you will like semi break the heart of the person that you're talking to, and they'll say, oh my gosh, that's what I used to think. That's how I used to feel about myself. You're not a loser. You're not going to be stuck there forever. Sometimes I feel like an imposter. But if you stay the course, or if you blah, 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 like take this advice and you call me sometimes, I think it could happen. Especially if you're cute and nice. Oh my gosh, like this young guy. Like, wow, what if that happened when you just shared the truth?
Mm.
That'd probably be life changing. So, yeah, tell them what you're actually thinking. And then if it's like a full no for you, that you're like, oh my gosh, if that's what it's like to be an instructional designer, I am not interested, you could just say, hey, I was attracted to being an instructional designer because of blah and blah. But like, actually, when you were talking about this, this, and this, I was like, oh, I'm not interested in that. What I would like instead is, and then share that vision, like I said, and then ask them, what other career paths or job titles do you think I should look into? And then you follow those leads. And that was a successful conversation that you got to cross off one of your options and come up with a better one. So that is the 4-step method to turn your vague dreams and into a list of job titles, come up with better ideas if you need them, then get a solid peek into each of those professions so you could pick the best one for you and cross all the others off your list, and ideally live without regret. And join us in the sisterhood of the traveling pants. I'm kidding. So yeah, I just want to say this is all designed to be a way better way of going about your career clarity journey than endlessly scrolling on LinkedIn, which is often the alternative, or just thinking and praying about it, but not getting the practical information that would help you make a wise decision, not a wild guess. And so you probably need better ideas and a solid way to get exposed to them. And you just need better information to be able to assess them, not through Googling and stewing in your own assumptions, but rather through informational interviews with professionals who could tell you what their lives in those jobs are really like. That is how we have helped hundreds of people through this method, hundreds of Christians confidently discern what they feel called to do and what that job is called, and then they could go on and land that job. And if you have any questions or need any help with this, book a free call with us this week at thecalledcareer.com. Any final thoughts, Audrey?
All this allows you to then understand how to bring yourself to the job market rather than letting the job market tell you who you need to become. That's all I have to say.
Excuse me as I am stunned for the rest of the day. I know you have a hard stop, so I'll see you later.
Gotta go.
Bye. Thanks for listening to today's episode. To get an even more meaningful head start into your calling, head to thecalledcareer.com, where my fellow career coach Audrey and I have created a whole suite of free resources and tools to help you get clear and get a job today. For those who are definitely ready to land a job or start a business in the next 6 to 12 months, we're here to help you biblically and practically discern your calling through coaching, reflection, and deep market research. Identify the job that's aligned with it, even if you currently have no idea what you want. Rebrand your resume and LinkedIn to translate your background to appeal to your future boss. P.S. We take this off your plate and do this for you. Also, we'll teach you how to land referrals and get attention from leadership through networking. Again, if that makes you nervous, we have these emails and LinkedIn messages literally written for you so you don't have to sweat. We're also here to give you unlimited interview practice so you're prepared to address every elephant in the room and knock selling yourself out of the park. Then we'll round out with helping you negotiate your salary so you land thousands more. Just so you know, recent clients have gotten $8,000 to $50,000 salary increases, even though they were totally non-traditional candidates. That's because we specialize in helping non-traditional career pivoters land jobs they're ecstatic to serve in. It takes work, but we're here to see you through until the end, when we're celebrating that day that you send me an email in all caps and you say, Kelsey, I got the job. Then you could be on the podcast. But I'll be here until then, keeping you accountable and encouraged by meeting with you literally until you land the job you want, even if that's up to 6 months from now within our program. Apply to join at thecalledcareer.com, and I'll see you next week here at Answer the Call. Bye for now.